New Mexico Crime Files, a deep dive into the archives, shocking and notorious cases, the arrests and what led to them, and what happened to the suspect. Here are your hosts, Dean Staley and Jessica Garate. New Mexico Crime Files is sponsored by Medrano Struck Law Firm.
Welcome back to New Mexico Crime Files. I am Dean Staley, KRQE News anchor, and one half of your hosting team here. And I'm Jessica Garate. Pleasure being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching today. And again, this is New Mexico Crime Files, and it's a look at crimes in our city and the justice system and what happens with those cases. And this first crime that we're going to spell out for you and show to you is something that is very familiar to everyone in this community. Yes. This is 3 suspects running from police. 2 are caught, and then 1 takes off in a stolen truck. And then what happens next is caught on camera, and it's amazing that everyone walked away from this. And let me give you a hint. Sometimes car thieves not the best drivers. Yeah. That's the hint. Yes. This is Brittany Bade reporting back from November 2018.
A spike strip stopped 2 suspected car thieves, but the driver got away in a stashed stolen car and led police on a chase all across the city. News 13's Brittany Bade shows you this dramatic video.
A turn taken too fast, a rollover crash, and an ejected driver.
I can see him get ejected, fly above the car.
Is what ultimately stopped a citywide chase.
Hurry up, get on the ground, slowly!
For an accused serial car thief. It all started on November 27th.
44 down. White Escalade.
When police say they used a low jack to track down a stolen Cadillac with John Trujillo, Andrew Perkins, and Chantel Santillanes inside. It's not shown on lapel video, but police say they threw out a spike strip at Central and Cypress and it popped 2 tires. All suspects ran. Officers caught Santillanes and Perkins, but Trujillo.
A woman color Ford F-150.
Trujillo jumped in a stolen truck he just happened to have stashed at that very intersection and took off, even ramming into a cruiser.
Intentionally causing damage to my driver's side door.
Officers around the city responded.
I was trying to haul.
They chased Trujillo in the air and on the ground, from the South Valley all the way to Sandia Casino.
Directly across the main entrance to the casino now.
One officer is seen struggling with his spike strip, and he doesn't get it thrown out in front of Trujillo in time.
Looked like he lost control, went on 2 wheels.
But it appears he did himself in by taking this turn at 50 miles an hour. Brittany Bade, KRQE News 13.
Trujillo has a long criminal history, including auto theft and shoplifting, dating back 11 years to his 11th birthday. All 3 suspects are charged with auto theft.
Dean, wow. You see that video and you're like, how did those guys jump out of that truck and how did they not hit anybody? That's exactly, we see these stories all the time, and that's one of the things you walk away, you say, this is amazing that nobody was hurt. What a blessing that no one really got injured in this crazy chase. Yeah, I don't know what the guy was doing, but he somehow jumps into the back. Like at the end in the video, you can see him. It's just complete chaos on our streets, and they still try to take off. I think he gets ejected from the truck when it rolls, and then he lands in the back of his own truck. I mean, it was crazy. Insane. I don't know exactly how he got in the back of the truck. It happened so quickly. But again, this was a man with a long history of car theft in our community who we have not yet figured out a way to put away long enough to keep him from doing this again. Yes, this is John Trujillo. He was charged December 2018, a month after this arrest. He went to trial in 2021. And then by March of that year, the jury found him guilty of aggravated fleeing of law enforcement, receiving or transporting a stolen car, resisting arrest, leaving the scene of an accident, and reckless driving. All of those charges, he just got himself in a lot of trouble. By October 8th of 2021, he was sentenced to 7 years, and he is still serving time right now. And that's the good news in terms of keeping people safe. And I do think it was interesting. Sometimes you feel like these are people who are addicts who are just trying to steal a car and get some money, get some drugs, and it's this sort of weird cycle. But the fact that he had a truck stashed that was stolen, that was ready for him to pull up to and jump out of a stolen car into that truck, it seems to me like some other level of organization of thinking, and this is, someone we have to be glad is off the streets. Absolutely, especially seeing what kind of problems he can cause on our streets. Yeah. And thank God no one else was hurt. Yeah. So coming up after the break, we are going to introduce you to a man who pulled over the wrong person because he was impersonating an officer, and then guess who he pulls over? We'll have that story.
New Mexico Crime Files was made possible by Medrano Struck Law Firm, local attorneys based here in Albuquerque, committed to providing personalized legal services, including free consultations. Call 505-217-2200 or visit MedranoStruckLaw.com today. Now back to New Mexico Crime Files.
Jaramillo's neighbors say they're not surprised.
And tried to be like the hero in the neighborhood whenever there was chaos or someone breaking into a car. He tried to play it off like he had everything under control.
And welcome back, everyone. So this next case, you kind of want to laugh because of how this all unfolds. And I have to say, having worked in the newsroom, for more than 30 years now, these happen from time to time. They don't happen every day. They don't happen every week or even every month. But almost every year, you'll get one or two of these where you have someone pretending to be a police officer. And the way this guy got caught is a little funny. Yeah, we've got video, and we have a story from News 13's Ian Schwartz. This takes us back to his arrest. This is an older case from 2010. A man impersonating a police officer pulls over an undercover detective. Here's the story.
Also, it looks like a cop car, and the Albuquerque man who drove it claimed he was a cop. But last night, he made a major mistake.
Good evening. Guns, vests, and a car rigged with emergency lights. He had everything he needed to be a cop.
There's just one problem. He is not a cop. So you can imagine it did not go over very well when he tried to pull over an undercover sheriff's deputy. Here's News 13's Ian Schwartz.
Dick, we talked to the man's stepfather tonight, and it's apparent his stepson always wanted to be a cop. Well, now he knows what it's like to ride in a real cop car. Unfortunately, he had to do it in the back seat with cuffs on.
This is what's left of the fake patrol car after deputies stripped it.
He made us believe that he was a police and had his lights flashing often in the front of the house.
Deputies say 35-year-old Orlando Jaramillo had it customized, running up a tab of more than $20,000 with a local company that outfits real cop cars by fooling them into believing he was with the sheriff's department. When Jaramillo didn't pay up, the owner called BCSO and found out that Jaramillo was a phony. His first big mistake, he used his real name and his real address. Deputies started watching Jaramillo, even watched him turn his police lights on so he could speed past traffic and through a red light. Then they lost him. Yesterday, they followed him again, and he did it again. But this time, deputies also had someone in an unmarked car who deliberately sped past Jaramillo, and the phony lawman took the bait. Jaramillo, who was pretending to be a deputy, actually chased the real deputy and pulled him over. The criminal complaint says Jaramillo then came to the deputy's window, flashed a state police badge, and then flashed a loaded gun. Jaramillo's neighbors say they're not surprised.
And tried to be like the hero in the neighborhood whenever there was chaos or someone breaking into a car. He tried to play it off like he had everything under control.
In the criminal complaint, the undercover deputy said he felt very threatened by the way Jaramillo showed his gun, and that if he didn't have backup right there, he might have shot Jaramillo. Back to you.
Okay, Ian, deputies found guns, ammo, bulletproof vests, and tasers in Jaramillo's car in his home. He is still behind bars tonight, charged with fraud, false imprisonment, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, so not this man's best moment. He lives in a community where he's pretending to his neighbors that he's a BCSO deputy, and he's driving a car that's tricked out with lights and sirens and stuff. And he has all of this gear, guns, ammo, bulletproof vest, tasers. I mean, this guy is really looking the part, acting the part. And you could tell talking to the neighbors that the neighbors were a little put off by him, that he sort of was playing the hero in the neighborhood, like, oh, I can help you with that. And I think some people in that neighborhood thought something's not quite right about this guy. You got that feeling from the neighbors that we interviewed at the time, that they're like, we'll have a car break-in and he comes over, takes over like he's,
knows what's happening and like, I'll take care of all of this. And like, he's some hero.
He's in charge.
And he's in charge. I think the sad part of it is that at the time he didn't have a criminal history. His dad said he just had always dreamed about being a law enforcement officer. And he just was living this dream that he wanted to do. Unfortunately, he was not authorized to be doing this.
And I remember another one. I'm sure you remember. We had one where we had someone pretending to be a BCSO deputy, a very young looking man who pulled over somebody, and then APD rolls up behind him to help out. Like, hey, bud, you need any help with this traffic stop? And at first, he's telling the APD cops, oh, yeah, I'm with the sheriff's department. And the more the APD cop talks to him, he realizes, I don't think you work for the sheriff's department. And that's the way he got. So this is a little similar, right? There's a little suspicion about like something's not right with this guy. And then when police got tipped to him, they looked into the background, and I think they basically had determined, this guy's pretending to be a cop. And then they set him up, right? He didn't just accidentally pull over a police detective.
They knew.
Yeah, they sent a detective speeding past him.
They'd been keeping an eye on him, and he was like just pulling people over, which is also scary too, because you don't know. You see lights, you see sirens, you think, hey, I think I'm getting pulled over, and people get pulled over, and you don't know it's not an officer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, interesting stuff. I think one of the more recent ones also, we had a man impersonating a deputy who was taking pictures and like had a BCSO shirt on, and even went to his old high school here in Albuquerque and talked to students about being an actual deputy. And pretending to his old teachers. Hey, I'm back. I'm with the sheriff's office now. Yes. Yeah. And he was not. And it got him in a lot of trouble because he carried a gun onto campus, which you can't do. And he's not unless you're a law enforcement officer, and he's not. So
this crossing this line between civilian life and playing in the cop world is a really scary thing. So we're lucky when something doesn't go terribly wrong in these cases. Yeah.
Orlando Jaramillo hid his face in court today, but that didn't stop the list of charges he faces for impersonating a lawman.
This phony patrol car once looked like the real thing.
I haven't seen a car decked out like that to that extent. That's not a law enforcement vehicle.
That was from a Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department sergeant back in March of last year. He's describing the cop car Orlando Jaramillo had souped up at a North Valley business that outfits real cop cars. Jaramillo ran up a tab of $30,000. Investigators caught on to Jaramillo after that company called the Sheriff's Department, wondering when it was going to get paid. Then, in February of last year, Jaramillo was busted when he tried to pull over a real detective in an unmarked car. He's been jailed since.
Hattie pleaded the charge of impersonating a peace officer, as charged in count 12 of the indictment.
In court, Jaramillo didn't want to show his face. He mumbled the word guilty as the judge read off misdemeanor charges of impersonating a police officer, carrying a deadly weapon, and felony charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, false imprisonment, and fraud. Now, he'll have a 60-day evaluation, common when there are concerns about mental health.
Perhaps some of the issues can be addressed through counseling or other kinds of resources that can be made available.
The district attorney says results of that evaluation will impact sentencing. Jaramillo faces 1 to 5 years. Sentencing is set for August 11th. Deanna Salceda, KRQE News 13.
So Dean, this is how this case played out. As I'd mentioned before this happened, he did not have a criminal history. He took a plea deal in 2011, pleading guilty to 10 counts of impersonating an officer, 3 counts of fraud, and 4 more charges. He was sentenced to 5 years of supervised probation that September, but then he violated his probation in 2016 by repeatedly contacting other people on probation. And then he also was soliciting sex from a prostitute. He was put back on probation for 4 years, which he did successfully complete by 2020.
All right. So this next story that we're going to take a look at is one of those moments where police are stopping to help somebody. They think they're in need of help, and they find out in trying to help somebody, some member of the public, that person may in fact be up to no good. And it's an example of just how quickly things can escalate. That story's next.
All right, so this next story is one of those examples of when police are stepping in to help a member of the public. They think they're in trouble, they need help. And sometimes that person is asking for help. Hey, I've got a problem. And then officers in the middle of what they're doing, when they have very little time to react, realize, oh, wait a second, the person asking for help may be up to no good.
And this is what happened in this case. A woman, she actually called Lee County Sheriff's Office saying someone was trying to steal her car. And then she ends up causing quite the scene. This happened back in 2015 when our reporter, Emily Younger, broke down that newly released video. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens when she realized that police were going to arrest her.
The dash cam video shows everything. A New Mexico deputy narrowly escapes death while trying to arrest a suspect who has other ideas.
Stop! Stop! Get out of the car now!
Dash cam video captures the tense moments as a Lee County deputy is forced to draw his weapon after a dispute escalates.
I had loaned her some money to get a car, right? And she was selling the car to this lady.
It all happened in late March. Vivian Condarco, the woman in the orange, flags down Sergeant Jeff Walker on this road near Hobbs. She tells Walker someone is trying to steal her car.
She's not even driving the car, she was trying to sell it.
Condarco then gets back in her car while Walker looks up her license plate number.
I just ran that plate.
The sergeant soon realizes Condarco is wanted by police for violating probation.
Step out of the car, please. Vivian, don't do this. You're going to go to jail.
I don't care.
When Walker attempts to arrest Condarco, she starts to take off. He clings to her door and is drugged face first on the ground. When he gets up,
get out of the car! Stop! Stop the car!
Condarco flees.
We got battery on a peace officer. She's running.
Beginning a more than 10-minute long high-speed chase.
Speed's at 110.
Then Condarco makes a bold move. She does a U-turn in the middle of the highway. Walker, behind her the whole time, rams into the side of her car. But this isn't over yet. She flees again. Several miles later, she's stopped by spike strips. Walker is still at the scene of the crash, limping, waiting for paramedics to arrive. Walker was taken to the hospital after the crash. He suffered some scrapes and bruises, but is back on the job. Emily Younger, KRQE, News 13.
So this happens in Lee County near Hobbs. This woman is telling deputies that someone is trying to steal her car. They step in, they're trying to help her, and at some moment during this, they run her plate and realize, wait a second, this person who's asking for help is actually wanted. We've got an issue with it. She's wanted on a probation violation was the issue. Now, Jess, this is one of those stories. We cover this all the time, and it astounds me how often this happens. If she had just said, yeah, I'm that person, let's figure this out. Do I need to go to jail today and maybe bond out, whatever, and figure this out? But she won't do it. She decides to make a run for it, and we see this all the time, and she puts all of these people at risk. She puts the deputy at risk who gets dragged along for a time. And if these people in this moment, because you're not talking about a crazy serious crime. This is not someone who they looked her up and said, oh, you're wanted for a triple homicide in Reno. Right. Like this is not that person, right? So in these moments, the instinct for whatever reason takes over and they just take off and they put so many people at risk. And you and me, we're all driving on these highways and on these roadways and at risk when something like this happens.
And the poor deputy, I mean, you think you would have the same response. Like, she may take off, so he grabs the door, which would just be normal, just instinct to grab it, and that it would stop her. And then when she takes off, it's so hard to watch him, she drags him for a little bit, and then he jumps in and he's like, okay, it's time for you to give up, and ends up, she goes up, and we see in that video where he crashes into her. And that's hard on them too. Like those deputies, now he's been dragged by her, and now she's also been in a crash with her.
Yeah, and one of the number one reasons that law enforcement people get hurt are in these kinds of crashes, right? And it does say something about the law enforcement, though. Their instinct is not just to step away and say, okay, we'll chase you. They really want to stop this person. They know that she's going to be dangerous if she takes off. They're doing everything they can in that moment to get the keys from her, to put it in park. So the instinct, and I'm not sure what the SOP is on this, what the standard operating procedure is, but in that moment, their instincts take over, and they really are trying to do the best thing they can to protect the public, and then they end up getting hurt.
Yeah, and you can see, she has no care in the world. If she's willing to do that to a deputy, just imagine what she would do to anyone else she ran into in that road, and so they stopped her luckily pretty quickly.
And you think about it, this is not someone who's especially skilled at driving necessarily, and they're in a high-speed chase trying to get away from police, and they're desperate, and they've already shown that they'll do anything. Are they going to cross the median? Are they going to turn around on the interstate and drive the wrong way? Are they going to, get off on the on-ramp? And there's all kinds of crazy stuff that can happen. So in some ways you look at this and you say, wow, good thing no one was hurt worse than they were in this instance.
And this is a woman, it was all on a fraud case. She violated her probation in a fraud case, and now she got so many more charges added to this. 2 more charges were added: aggravated fleeing, false imprisonment. In April 2017, she pled guilty to battery upon a peace officer. All other charges, though, were dropped as part of a plea deal. She was sentenced to 5 months of supervised probation. And then by October 2017, she did successfully complete probation and completed her sentence. So this is one where we're glad that, she did do her time.
And we should remind our audience that this happens all the time. Fleeing, lying to police, battery on a peace officer, and all those charges but one get dropped just because they want to make a deal and make this go away, right? They don't have time to take a trial, and they know what the expense and the time of trial will cost, and they make a deal. And so she doesn't even really go to jail for this, which I think is fairly astounding. And we see this constantly in these kinds of cases. Someone who's racked up, even in one instance, has racked up a lot of charges, and all but one of them go away.
Yeah. And this is one that, she did successfully complete her probation and completed that sentence. So it ended, we don't always see these outcomes, and typically they're back in trouble again.
Yeah.
So
hopefully she's on the right track.
She's learned,
All right.
not to be running from officer or from deputies.
Yeah. So. And that will do it for this episode of New Mexico Crime Files. We will see you next time.